Good evening. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for your interest in AI and startups. Our incoming president spoke about the next 10 years that are going to be the most exciting in terms of technology and AI and innovation and startups. So we just thought we'd leave you with a quick flavor of that. We have some terrific guests who have joined us from overseas, as well as our own colleagues from NATHEALTH. So we'll have a quick session. We also have a couple of startups that will be speaking to us about what they are doing and the incredible journey that we could have potentially in healthcare. All right. I'm just going to get started here. Hey, Meta, can you hear me?
Hi, Shravan. Yes, you are audible. How may I help you?
You got this on?
Hi, Shravan. Yes, you are audible. How may I help you?
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Meta, are you able to tell where I am and what I'm doing?
Your calendar says you have a speech at the 12th NATHEALTH Annual Arogya Bharat Summit. Your satellite position says you are in the Lalit, New Delhi. My inference is that you are in the middle of your speech right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hey, Meta, can you tell from this audience, a lot of them have wearables, and their wearables are detecting a lot of health data. Can you tell me something about the health of my audience at the moment?
Of course, my sensors are picking data from wearables. Looks like 28% of your audience has elevated cardiovascular risk, while 9% display pre-diabetic symptoms. Would you like me to search for anything else?
Okay, that's already a little worrisome, and we are the group that's standing between the audience and drinks. So how's the energy level doing in the audience, Meta?
Sure, Shravan. 64% of your audience is sleep deprived.
Ooh.
The average resting heart rate of the audience is 79 beats per minute. Would you like me to search for anything else?
Okay, I think that's scary enough, but last question, Meta, what are they thinking? What is the audience thinking at the moment?
Well, I wish I could read minds, but my AI abilities limit me. What I can tell you is that 98% of your audience is perplexed and is wondering if this is real.
I don't know. Is it? Whether it's real or not, I think it's a scary time, but also a very exciting time. And I think it's really incumbent upon us as the healthcare industry to take this opportunity and really run with it. I think the next 10 years are going to be extremely exciting. The last 10 years were also terrific. But let's rewind a little bit and get a sense of how much we have progressed as a healthcare industry in the last several decades. So I went to med school in the 90s, but my dad went to med school in the 1960s. And at that time, there was actually a procedure called exploratory laparotomy. I think people who went to school in the 90s and before knew that there was a procedure where you just cut open a patient to look and feel and see what they might have, what they might be suffering from. Today's students will probably, or today's patients will probably sue a medical institution for even considering an exploratory laparotomy. But then again, this is what a computer looked like at that time, and those were the resources that we had. Come the 1970s, imaging became a thing. This is the first single slice CT scan. The images were grainy at best, but it was life-changing. It was a new epoch in healthcare, and it launched many careers and many businesses. I don't know if Dr. Mahajan is here. I'm sure he could attest to that. But the next couple of decades, from the beginning of imaging, we had MRIs come in the following decade after that. But there was a lot of digital innovation at the time. There were computerized labs, computerized hospitals, but those were mostly just managing information, managing data, and not really having any meaningful impact on healthcare decisions yet. And even then, with all these workflow changes and workflow enhancements, ICU mortality still remained a challenge. And we really needed to look at a different care model, not just technological advances. Come the 1990s, I think imaging was now completely available, and the early days of interventional cardiology had just started. By the mid-2010s, cardiovascular disease was largely solved. Right? Interventional cardiology has now become part of mainstay. Pediatric cancers have largely been addressed. The early days of surgical robotics was in place, and HIV, the big scourge of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, had almost entirely been resolved. Terrific decade, and we were all really proud of what we had achieved until then. And then the last 10 years came about, the advent of personalized healthcare and the utilization of algorithms. But they were still linear algorithms that helped workflow. They were not really clinical decision support tools that that used AI yet. And that's the decade that we are coming to. But in the meantime, let's celebrate some of the wins that we have. Diabetes is largely solved, obesity is getting solved, and wearables are now entering the realm of healthcare intervention as well. So the unit of care has been changing from episodic to continuous signals, but what next? What do the next 10 years and indeed the next century hold for us? So I'll just walk you through a hypothetical case study of a child that is as yet unborn. Let's say will be born this year, and in the next 10 years, a child that is not yet born, that is still in utero, would have the opportunity to be healed genetically. Their entire genetic code would be available, and any potential defects will likely be solved. We can argue the ethics of that in a separate conversation, but it's highly likely that most of the contemporary diseases of today will be largely resolved through genetic engineering in 10 years' time. This same child would have access to their entire medical data on a chip, and the parents and the healthcare system would do the very best to enhance the capabilities of this child, whether it's in terms of their health, their fitness, their growth, their development, and everything. Just imagine a totally digitally connected genotype and phenotype. A woman would be in far better control of her reproductive health we're talking about 10, 20, 30 years from today. Menopause will probably be planned and managed. Fertility will be optional and again managed. And companionship could also be digital, who knows. In 30, 40 years, we anticipate the need for a hospital will be considerably diminished. I realize I'm saying that in front of an audience of hospital administrators and owners, but episodic care will most likely take place at home, probably in the clubhouse of a place where they live, or at home. Medicines will be most likely digitally printed in some form, certainly customized. You're not going to have medicine for the masses. And interventions, even cardiac interventions, could very well be done by a robot at home or in a kiosk. This is the same individual that we were looking at, Ananya. Her life expectancy, if she is born in 2036, will likely exceed 100. So here she is at 125 with her digital humanoid companion. And that's what the future of healthcare holds for us. This is going to be a tricky area. What can we as the medical industry or medical professionals do? We're talking about completely changing the genetic code, changing the engineering of human. A lot of ethical dilemmas are going to open up, but that's perhaps a conversation for next year's NATHEALTH. But today, let's dream. Let's celebrate the wins that we have. I think it's fair to say that in 10 years' time, many cancers will be easily diagnosable, most likely interceptable, and very highly curable. we can significantly reduce or almost eliminate hospital-acquired infections by shifting care home and by making medicines more customized and more readily available to the patients that need them. Lots and lots can be done, but I'm out of time, and I have some terrific speakers who are going to join us. We have a lovely speaker who's come in from Israel. Thank you so much for joining us, and her colleague Jay from IQVIA. Please come on up and take us away. Thank you.
Working. Can you
Am
hear
I
me?
audible? Yeah, I guess so. Thanks, Dr. Shravan, for the fantastic introduction today. Wish I had my own meta now. I want to talk about startup ecosystem, and we have some startups today that are going to talk about what they have been doing in the last few years, especially under our Health Nexus program as well. But before that, what we wanted to do was try and understand what one of the world's most advanced nations in terms of technology and innovation has been doing. And we are very fortunate for Dikla to having made this very risky trip from Tel Aviv to Delhi yesterday. And once again, thank you so much, Dikla. Today I'm speaking on behalf of NATHEALTH as a member of NATHEALTH Governing Council, and extremely thankful for making this trip. Dikla, Israel has a very small population relative to, of course, India, just under 10 million people, but still it's in the forefront of innovation, especially in healthcare and healthcare technology, right? What is special about it? How did it happen?
Well, first of all, thank you for hosting me. If I'm unable to return, you're stuck with me here for a few more days, yeah? So, it's an honor to have the opportunity to speak about innovation and how that was managed and how it is endorsed in Israel. You know, we like to call ourselves the startup nation. One of the mindsets that are deriving from that is that being a very small country, and as you are aware from the geopolitical situation, our addressable market is not necessarily the geographic region that we are at. In our mindset, when we talk about innovation and when we talk about building ideas and companies, we already talk about the global market. We already talk about how are we going to build to scale in markets that are not our markets. So the mindset starts already to think global from day one before we even have a product. And in Israel, when you talk about innovation, this is kind of like a given because we don't have, as you mentioned, we're a very small country. We don't have a lot of national resources as well. Our resources is the human resources. And we build on that, and we try to encourage as much of the open, innovative thinking. Just to share with you some facts, some interesting facts. We have an average, a startup for every 1,400 Israelis. So that's a lot of startups. That's over 7,100 startups in Israel alone. And we have over 450 R&D centers. And the entrepreneurship mindset, and we'll talk about also some of the background, is also coming from the fact that we're not afraid to take risks. Israelis are risk takers. I think you also see it in many other aspects and layers of our life. But taking risk and being aware of failing. Because most of the startups eventually, and it's hard to say, most of them eventually will fail. It's only the best of the best that will succeed. But if you have this entrepreneurship mindset, you are not afraid to fail because many of them are serial entrepreneurs because you'll do one company after another until you actually create this sense of this experience and the understanding. So I would say not being afraid of failing, having this innovative mindset, and having no other choice. To be very frank, this is what we have, this is the asset. So that's part of the imperatives.
Thank you. And that brings me to the next logical question, right? What does the government do differently? And I know there is a very famous Unit 8200 in the military where you transfer a lot of innovation that happens within the military to civilian population. How do you make it work?
Well, first of all, being a small country, a lot of the health organizations are quite centralized, and we'll talk about it and how that is being leveraged. I will refer to a comment that I heard Amira said earlier about the importance of data and the accessibility of data to help innovation and to help clinical development. So I'll talk about it in a moment. But in terms of the government, realizing that this is an asset brought the government to understand that an investment has to come from the government. Because again, if you want to encourage risk-taking, you need funding. You need funding. So the Israeli government has the Israeli Innovation Authority, which is sponsored by the government, and that has around $500 million investment a year. And for a small country like Israel, that's a lot. And again, knowing that not all of these companies will succeed, it means that they know that a lot of the investment coming from government will not materialize. So that is one aspect that is very relevant, and they're very much involved in the ecosystem of innovation. And the other thing, we're talking here a lot about ecosystem. The link between the government and the academia and the pharma industry and technology, having been able to integrate and combine it and have an active ecosystem is very important. And with regards to data, a lot of the medical institutions in Israel, we have government hospitals, and we have data, and maybe we can talk about the significance and the importance of data. In Israel, the medical institutions, some of the leading ones, including Sheba as an example, have EMR data of almost 30 years. So Israel was among the first to implement EMR across the country, across both the government and the HMO hospitals. When you have data that is so profound over 30 years, that is so significant. Imagine for a digital health company that wants to build a model, an AI model, or want to build a platform. Imagine the data, the extensive data that they have, both deep and broad. And when I say deep is that when you talk about 30 years of data, you really can build a longitudinal progression of disease. Let's say, for example, I want to do projection of Parkinson. Maybe that person that stumbled when he was 20 and broke a leg and kept falling when he was 30 or 40 is actually an early signs of Parkinson. Maybe Alzheimer has early signs that we're unable to detect, but if we have this long history of data, that is very impactful. If you build models on this type of data and you're a startup company, you come with already a very strong starting point. And imagine what assets that, as a government and as the institutions, what type of assets you bring to the startup companies as a first step. And one last point is that, again, this is the innovative mindset. The government institutions, the hospitals, the healthcare organizations are very open to have the digital health and the startup companies kind of like sandbox, use them as a sandbox. Be their pilot, be the proof of concept, have those innovative companies embedded in the systems. You have institutions like Sheba that has ARC, which is a center for over 150 startups, and just enable them in real life, in real situations, build their products. You have institutions like Clalit. And when you are a startup, but you come with data of 30 years, 5 million patients or more, it's very robust. It's very robust. So that's a very, as I said, an integrated ecosystem that helps that.
So, Dikla, you talked about the role of the government, the role of some of the institutions, organizations such as the HMOs. Anything very interesting and unique about the HMOs in Israel?
Yeah, and this is, again, look, we're a very small country, so sometimes it's more easy to have a more, in this way, a centralized system that is is quite favorable for the patients. And why I say favorable is that in Israel, 100% of the population are insured. You have to be insured in one of the 4 sick funds. There are only 4 sick funds, or HMOs, of which one is Clalit that covers over 55% of the population. So you have small population, but 100% of it in the tips of your hands. What is unique about the healthcare system, and especially unique about Clalit, is that it's what it's called integrated payer-provider, which we don't see a lot. You see Kaiser Permanente, and Clalit is the 2nd largest integrated payer-provider. What that means, they are both a hospital, they have 14 hospitals, they have also clinics, 1,600 clinics. They are an insurer, and they are a provider. So that gives you a full 100%, 360 degrees view of a patient, literally from birth to mortality. It's a whole life cycle. And I'll give you just a few examples. In COVID, before we had even vaccines, you could have, in real time, real results of your treatments, and you could link EMR to death even, which is very unique in Israel. You link EMR to death, you can really see the treatment patterns, and in real time, fine-tune it, so that you make sure that the treatment is optimal. Again, that was before we had vaccines. Of course, once you have the vaccine, once a COVID vaccine, implementing it was easier because it was very central. So there are some advantages about that. The other advantage, again, linked to data, is that countries that have data, institutions that have data, are very attractive for companies like us in IQVIA to run clinical trials. Because today, clinical trials requires data. Today, the clinical trials are much more personalized. Today, it's much more specialized. So if I want to do a clinical trial, I don't just want to find a patient. I want to find a patient that is most likely to respond to the treatment that I'm actually assessing. So if I have a very personalized information and I have genomics data, and I can actually really build a patient profile that is most specific and more accurate, I can be more successful with clinical trials, which is why one of the areas that we are investing a lot in Israel is clinical trials. Israel is 20 largest clinical trial country, which for a small country like us is quite unique. So. Yeah.
And finally, last question, Dikla. Sure. I know IQVIA has done a lot of work in scaling the startups in Israel. What are 1 or 2 key initiatives that has helped the Israeli ecosystem in healthcare specifically from a startup standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, we recognized the fact that this is a very thriving ecosystem in Israel, and there's a lot of innovation. We at IQVIA constantly look for technologies. We have data, and what if you take technology, Israeli technology, and you enrich it with our data? I mean, the amount and the models that you build are very scalable and very impressive and very strong. So this type of collaboration is very appealing for us. So we opened this innovation hub in Israel, and we started engaging with startups, and we started hand-holding them and building a joint go-to-market and see how we can collaborate. And I will say that, again, not all of the initiations succeeded. Many of these partnerships with the startups, at some point we need to decide, okay, this is not going further. We need to stop that. We need to halt it. However, here's an idea, here's an opportunity that will really help us even in building better studies, in designing better trials, in identifying the right patients, etc. So there's a lot of collaboration and mutual learning. When you work with a startup company and you're a very large company, IQVIA has 93,000 employees. Startup can be maybe 2 to 10, the CEO and CTO. How do you merge that? How do you manage it with like an innovation hub environment that enables us to be a bit more agile in how we work with startups? So this is what we're trying. We haven't yet completely cracked it, but this is what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you so much. Back to you, Shravan.
Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you so much, Dikla. I hope you have a safe flight back, but in case you miss it, we would welcome your wisdom for more time to come. Really appreciate it. While they're getting photographed, I'll invite our next speaker, Shobha. The idea, what Shobha is going to present is a concept of an accelerator for startups that all of us can work together and contribute to. Shobha is not a stranger to NATHEALTH and the industry, and I think she's put together a wonderful context. Shobha?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I know that we are standing between dinner and the drinks, so we will wrap it up very quickly. I need a clicker. So I don't think I need to build the context. Is it? No. Today, through the day, we have been, it's not working. Okay. So we have already, kind of spoken, many of the leaders over here have talked about, what are the, gaps which are there in the current healthcare scenario. I mean, starting from infrastructure gaps to health, human resource to innovation ecosystem to funding, etc. The government has also realized that, and what is amazing in 2026 budget, for the first time, the government actually recognized healthcare as an economic engine, and this has happened, thanks to, I think, we can all give ourselves a pat, because the private sector has definitely contributed. And to make the government realize the kind of contributions that we are making to the GDP and to the overall development of the country, directly or indirectly, by keeping the health of the nation intact. Now, the fact is that when while technology, we have talked about AI and all the other exponential technologies that have been helping the government, the healthcare sector to actually improve the efficiency and the effectiveness and optimization of resources, etc. What has actually brought AI into the center stage and India into the center stage of AI development and collaboration is the AI summit that government did recently, where we saw more than 6 lakh participants coming all over the world, more than 100 countries participating, 40 top CEOs coming in, and 20 plus heads of state. That definitely has brought India into the center stage of exponential technologies and particularly AI. And government is doing a lot of, is putting the fundamentals and the foundations together for the industry to take it forward. Even the global, the Stanford ranking, puts India into the 3rd place after US and China. So the opportunities are immense. And what our startups in India have been doing, the tech startups in India have been actually contributing in transforming the healthcare across the value chain of, whether you talk about diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, post-monitoring, etc. And they have been improving access. They have, have been bringing in, I think, Shravan put it in a very humorous way, and he put in the vision of what the next 10 years of healthcare is likely to be. However, there are roadblocks. We all know that startups have not been able to scale up. I mean, we heard Dikla mention that even in Israel, in spite of the government putting in all its might, they are also still evolving. And India is a very large country, and there are many challenges. And hence, NATHEALTH has last year actually brought in the initiative of the Health Nexus Accelerator, which basically tries to bring together the startups and the healthcare industry together, because NATHEALTH is very uniquely positioned. We talked about, and I think this congregation today, we see that the entire stakeholder, starting from healthcare providers to diagnostic labs to health tech to startups to skilling institutions, they are all here. So NATHEALTH has this unique ability to bring in together, and to help bridge the gap or disconnect which has been there between industry, healthcare industry and startups. And last year, under the leadership of Shravan, we all know the visionary that he is, he brought in Premji Invest to actually fund the Health Nexus Accelerator program. What it did was, the whole idea was to bring in the healthcare impact, to bring in the startup growth, facilitate the growth of startups, and also get investment opportunities. And what we saw was that about 25 startups were selected. They were put through a mentorship program, and the phase 1 was successfully completed with a demo. The startups actually worked across these areas which are there on the screen. These are the 25 selected startups, and these are the program leaders who actually mentored and guided the startups through the accelerator program. And these were the juries and the individual contributors who kind of assessed them. And these are some of the snapshots. Now, the outcome of this Nexus Accelerator program was that the startups were better connected with the health industry, and some of them also, like Marengo Hospital over here, gave them the opportunity for clinical validation. But we want to move into the next phase. And for the next phase, we have very clear ideas of what we want to do. Before we go into the next phase, I just also wanted to mention that AI utilization in healthcare system is going to be increasing. And McKinsey in 2023 actually had already predicted that 26% for product and service development you will have AI utilization, 15% for service operations, 11% for supply chain management, 7% for manufacturing, 5% for HR. And over the year, the healthcare also has been growing at a CAGR of 17 to 22% across the health sector, and it will be reaching, it is estimated to reach 1.5 trillion by 2035. In the same period, AI is going to be contributing about 1 trillion to the Indian economy, and I can bet that healthcare is going to be one of the front-running sectors. So in the second phase that we want to do is, we want to provide the, while we are seeing that the opportunity of AI technology is immense, but we need to pause and think, are we able to optimize this opportunity that is there with us? Each one of us are able to leverage it. Currently, maybe not, because things are in silos. They have not converged. There is, the ecosystem is not yet evolved. And that is what NATHEALTH endeavors to do in next maybe 5 to 7 years. So this year, what we want to do is keep selecting 25 startups. Going forward, we want to, by 2030, actually have 1,000 startups in the kitty, create an ecosystem and alum of startups and healthcare leaders together, so that we optimize the entire opportunity that is in front of us and grow together. So what is it that we want to provide? It's a three-pronged approach that we want to provide in phase 2. We want to provide the NATHEALTH members, first of all, cutting-edge technologies for both back-end and front-end integration. We also want to provide this opportunity as an investment opportunity for NATHEALTH members, VCs, family offices, HNIs, by providing curated bouquet of cutting-edge innovative healthcare technology. In the first phase, Delhi IIT Innovation Technology Hub had actually curated the startups. But in the second phase, we want India to be the playground. We want to go across the several incubators that are there in various universities and institutions so that we can actually reach out and get those technologies onto the forefront, bring onto the NATHEALTH platform, and give this opportunity to our members. And thirdly, we want to obviously help give startups an opportunity with mentorship for go-to-market guidance, navigating regulatory environment, and preparing pitch deck so that they can pitch and get investment to scale up. Most of the late stage startups actually have a challenge because most of the incubators are supporting the early stage startups, but when they come to the scaling up, growth, development, that doesn't happen. And through this Health Nexus Accelerator, what we want to do is that we want our members and the startups to grow together so that we expand our opportunity and cater not just to the domestic market, but also to the global market. So that's where I think we want to, this is an appeal, and I actually am very grateful to NATHEALTH for giving me this opportunity. They have been in conversation with me through my organization, Insight Collective, which has an initiative called MedNet X Cube. We are trying to build this, second phase of Health Nexus Accelerator. And the appeal is, the benefits are immense. It's all there in the slide, which is written. Appeal is that please chime in, put in all your might, help and support us and contribute, as Sangeeta said, as Amira said, that, it's one NATHEALTH family, and we all have to come together to make this a success. So on behalf of NATHEALTH, I want to also thank all the partners who have put in their might in the first phase. And with that, I'm sorry if I took a little longer.
Thank you, Shobha. We're truly grateful for your support here and wealth of experience and expertise that you bring. Thank you so much. But what Shobha said, we've already put in practice. We've seen that demonstrated by Marengo. And I'd like to invite dear friend Rajiv Singhal to come and speak about his experience at Marengo, and his colleague Dr. Praveen Gupta also to later bring on a couple of startups to speak about it. Rajiv, over to you.
Thanks, Shravan. Very good evening to you all. I think last year, when we all sat down and we decided that how do we actually bring more credibility to the clinical credibility to the startups. At the end of the day, there are people who are trying to innovate. There are people who are trying to actually create something new. They want to change the face of the medicine and the way medicine is being practiced. But at the end of the day, when you launch a product, it's important that it gets through the clinical validation so that it becomes something which can be marketed and over a period of time becomes the norm of the day. Under those circumstances, but before I come to that, I would say it's always good to hear that the way we are talking about startups and innovations in today's time. But I think it's important to know, are startups that new? Is innovation that new in healthcare system? I think the startups and innovations are as old as the medicine and the way we have practiced this. It has taken ages, in fact, to come up with certain things. It was the crack in the fuselage of the Dornier aircraft, which led to somebody trying to think that how the lithotripsy machine can actually become, when the sound waves can actually create that dent in the fuselage. They said, let's actually build the lithotripsy machine. It was Fourier in France who studied the hydrogen atoms in the body and said there are 10 to the power 28 hydrogen atoms in the body, and why not, if this particular proton can be energized, then this can actually create an image. This is the basis of today's MRI. That is how actually the science and innovation have worked together over a period of time. And then fast forward where we are. We are trying to put a culture, we are trying to encourage innovators that yes, there is a platform. You are not in isolation. You are working with the industry. And today, industry wants to give you the testing ground where you can actually test and do your clinical validation. At Marengo Asia Hospitals, we decided that we will give platform to few of the startups. One, I think, proudly I can say that biosensors were the one where we started putting them into our patients and creating the EICUs. And I'm proud to say that last year, we won 2 safety awards where there were 0 code blues in our hospital in Ahmedabad where we tested. 3 months, there was 0 code blue in a hospital. Very unknown, but this is something which we have established. And science says that if there is a code blue, patient is even revived. 23% of the patients have died within 1 year because of the damage to the myocardium. So if you are able to prevent and predict the cardiac arrest in a witness cardiac arrest by these parameters, you are actually preventing the cardiac arrest. That is what we did by establishing. Now, as we move forward in this year, all our hospitals all across we ensure that there is an assurance of this biosensors that all patients will be put through the biosensors in our hospitals. That's how we are trying to create this biosensor stuff and validation. I have my friend here, Dr. Praveen. He will talk more about a couple of startups he is mentoring. Our clinicians today are working with IITs and other places where we are working on dementia, Alzheimer's, and prevention of fall. That's the other thing on which we have done innovation. We have a concept of innovation called Meringovation at Meringo hospitals. And under that, we also did the first bloodless heart surgery. It's a concept which we actually worked with a company in Barcelona. And there, we were able to actually send the patient home in 9 days after a heart transplant. Now, all this kind of innovation work, whatever we are trying to do, it actually changes the way how the healthcare is going to be practiced over a period of time. And I've said this in multiple forums, and I'm saying it again here. At Meringo Asia hospitals, any startup who has a vision to change and challenge the status quo, they are more than welcome. But every startup has to understand there is a distance they have to walk with us. They have to cover I would say the last mile. They have to have the patience, because until and unless the clinical validation takes place, it's impossible for us to certify that the startups are good enough to basically be utilized on every patient. I think with this, I would like to invite Praveen here, Dr. Praveen Gupta, eminent neurologist, who has also been mentor to few startups. And over to Dr. Praveen to share your experiences on this.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. It is of great value and importance that the Health Nexus Accelerator program has been able to incubate and mentor a few startups over a period of time. Why? Because thinking of an idea is great, but integrating that idea into reality or real ecosystem is of great importance. And once you have done it, validation that this idea works in real time on real people, because in health, we are talking of real people. It works safely in real people is extremely important. The third step is whether it can be applied to a larger number of people in a realistic basis, or it can be accessed by a large number of people on a realistic basis is very, very important. So we had looked at about 7 startups over a period of last year, where we had gone through the journey with them of understanding their concept, the ideas, and how they will put that idea into practice, and what are the basis or the hypothesis on which this idea is likely to work. After mentoring those 7 companies in their early periods, we were able to mature or take 2 companies out of these 7 companies to a further step where they were allowed to use or put their data into clinical practice to see whether it gives us valid results. These results translates into benefit for real patients at a cost-effective, accessible value, and whether it can be scaled up. So today we will have these 2 startups presenting their pitch here. First of which will be the Ripple Healthcare startup, which brings us to a problem which happens to a larger number of our population, as we are having a large amount of older population which is growing, and we have talked of dementia and Parkinson's disease. What troubles that population is also what is known as hip fracture, and you'll be surprised to know that a hip fracture has a higher mortality than a heart attack over 5 years. So the first company, Ripple Healthcare, will present its device, a very simple device, which actually prevents hip fractures in elderly when they fall. Looks simple, but very, very effective because it can actually prevent major injuries, requirement for major hip surgeries, and actually can make it very safe for them. And they have augmented with a watch that gives you an alert when the elderly has fallen. With the growing older population, it is an innovation of great significance and value to our growing elderly population. The second startup, ICA by Manisha Soin, will actually tell us what we have talked earlier, how AI is going to shape healthcare. How artificial intelligence, especially genetic AI, which help us to actually make our workflow better, make healthcare more accessible to our patients, integrate healthcare in a seamless manner for better delivery to our patients, and how it will bring patients and healthcare providers closer enough to ensure better healthcare for our patients. So first up, we'll invite Mr. Kaushal Kothari from Ripple Healthcare to deliver his pitch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Praveen, sir. So, a warm welcome. Good evening. I'm Kaushal, founder of Ripple Healthcare, and it's my pleasure to be here. I'm actually very blessed to be here. Thanks NATHEALTH for giving us the opportunity to present our, as Praveen sir has rightly mentioned, the pressing problem of the global to showcase with you all. So, without further ado, I'll like to present. Can you please move to next slide? Is there? Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yes. So I'll start with a quick video. So yeah, this is a video. I'm very sorry for you all to witness this, but unfortunately, this is a sad reality of millions of elderly people that has to go on a daily basis. Falls leads to longer hospitalization, permanent disability, and even painful death. One of the most sinister consequences of a fall is a serious hip fracture, which is also the costliest osteoporotic fracture in the entire healthcare ecosystem. Unfortunately, the problem is so atrocious that 60% of elderly people who have an hip injury require caregivers support, either could be complete support or partial support, even for their basic daily routine activities like getting out of the bed, use of toileting, or even to change the clothes. It was very hard to know that the mortality rate with an hip fracture in an elderly is about 40%. That is reported, but we have some new data coming, and it can go to up to 56% also in developed countries. So in India, it could be much worse than that. So that's why many clinicians are actually saying hip fracture is beginning of an end. So to solve this huge global atrocious problem, we at Ripple Healthcare, with the support of our partners, have developed a smart wearable device, which is a technology patent granted, ISO 13485 certified device, which is Hip Pro. It is lightweight, ultra comfortable, easy to wear by any elder, and can be on and off in just a matter of seconds. All the electronic hardware are completely sealed in an IP68 casing, making it water, dust, sweat resistant. Also, as you can see, there's a red button on the device at the front, which allows the elder to call for help in case of there's an emergency. In case the elder is feeling, let's say, uneasiness or some chest pain is there, and he or she wants to reach out to their caregivers, with a press of a button, he can reach out to them, and the notification will be sent to the caregiver on their WhatsApp. So they don't need to download any more app, and it can go to hundreds of patients right away. Hundreds of, not patients, hundreds of caregivers right away. So let me just quickly also show the device in action. As you can see, it's very easy to wear. There's a magnetic buckle which can easily align itself. As soon as the power is switched on, the sensors on the belt understands the person's risk of fall, their posture, their balance, their gait, and gets the airbag which is there at the sides get inflated. Once the person is at resting state, which is sitting down or lying down, it gets deflated and stays deflated. As soon as the wearer stands up, the change in posture is detected, the airbags are inflated, stays inflated. There's a reason why we are keeping the airbag inflated when the person is at high risk of fall, because this also augments them to increase in their confidence and as they can have a protection. So that addresses a bigger psychological problem, which is fear of fall. So this is also one of our major USP, and we are the only active-based device in the world that is addressing fear of fall. Because of this fear of fall, the person falls into the vicious cycle of falls leads to fear of fall, leads to frailty because there is less in movement, that leads to increase in chances of sarcopenia, which increase in falling risk. So it's a vicious cycle which they fall into. For breaking this vicious cycle, addressing fear of fall is also predominantly important. So at last, I would like to state what we are building is not just a mere orthopedic intervention, but a catalyst that will empower millions of elderly people to become more Atmanirbhar. And this would not have been possible without the support of NATHEALTH Accelerator, as well as I'm very thankful to Dr. Praveen, Dr. Rajiv, and Marengo Asia Hospital for giving us the necessary ecosystem. As Sir rightly mentioned, when we interacted our first interaction with Sir, we were at early stage prototyping, but got us the necessary immersion experience and got our product clinically validated, and it's still ongoing. But that opportunity to break the barrier and directly reaching to the right decision maker and stakeholder has really helped us. So I'm really thankful for giving us these benefits, allowing us to interact with directly the decision makers of the premium hospitals all across India. So thank you, Health Nexus Accelerator. And I'm so glad to see the next cohort coming up. And just a quick suggestion, maybe 25 startups won't do justice as we want to reach 2,000. Maybe that number needs to go much higher than that. Thank you so much.
So hi everyone, this is Manisha. I work at ICA Health. At ICA, we work on AI-powered solutions for patient care. We are a preventive and a proactive care model both, which means that we not only screen patients, but also follow it up with proactive care. So the pain point that we're looking to solve, if you look at the preventive care numbers within the country, we're at just 12%. If you look at the drop-offs post a screening or a clinical diagnosis, the numbers are 30 to maybe 40, maybe 80%. And those are the numbers that we're trying to improve. So what we're trying to do is increase the number of patients who get screened, and the ones who are screened do not drop off and are brought back into the OPD for follow-up care so that we are able to help patients with better health and improve health outcomes for them. So this is what a preventive care device looks like. It's a health kiosk, which helps with non-invasive screening. You're able to get vital parameters, very useful for hospitals, diagnostic labs, peripheral areas, access, brand recall, user engagement. Hospitals conduct OPD camps, labs go. The patient data is there, but is there any engagement? Absolutely not. You get a bunch of patient numbers, and that's the end of the whole story. Nothing moves beyond that. So can we really improve that for you? Additional sources of revenue. We price it very, very nominally, less than the cost of a cup of tea. So very easy to use. So can we do that? And if yes, then maybe we should just ask for more deployment opportunities, which is what brings me here. An annual ritual where I remind everybody that I still exist and I'm still working, I'm still building. There are many of you I'm yet to work with. So happy to, maybe this is going to be a turnaround year and we can start finally. So that's just a few mentions about us. Yeah, happy to take up questions that you may have, and a big shout out to Dr. Rajiv Singhal, Dr. Praveen Gupta for helping us with the pilot opportunities. Honestly, working in tier 2, tier 3 hospitals has been easier than working in Delhi NCR. But yeah, Marengo Asia has really helped us out on that. So a big shout out. And as far as the second phase of the program is concerned, what we really need is pilot opportunities. Paid pilot opportunities, not unpaid opportunities, because we all need revenues, we all need to survive. And yeah, that's that. So thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity, for your patience. I know I'm standing between you and dinner, so won't take more time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, audience, and really appreciate the startups coming forward. You are the lifeblood of our innovation ecosystem. I think Marengo has given us a great example of how to blend them into their operations. We had a wonderful speaker from Israel talking about their experience with startups and accelerators. And then, of course, Shobha brought it home with the Nexus Accelerator in collaboration with NATHEALTH. Thank you so much. And over to the NATHEALTH team to guide us towards dinner. Thank you so much.